How's it going, guys? I'm here with your Raw review. So, let me just start off by saying, guys, I hope everyone is staying safe out there. Things don't seem to be getting any better, to say the least, unfortunately, but in due time, things will, so we have to stay positive. But staying positive when it comes to Raw and WWE and wrestling in general, that's just something I can't do. Simply just take a look at the product. And one thing where I have to be really negative here is the decision to still continue producing new wrestling shows even during a time like this. It's not appropriate, it's a bad time, and we're putting these wrestlers at risk. Why is it that every other sports league has postponed things? The UFC is postponing events. We've got, Major League Baseball is probably going to shut down for the entire season. They're postponing spring training, but it doesn't seem like there is going to be a season. The NBA stopped in mid-game to shut down their organization. There's all these examples, but, WWE gets Wrestlemania shut down. They're still going to do the show anyway, and get this, it's going to be 2 nights, and it's going to be taped. And we all know that there's going to be spoilers. And, people might say, oh, but this is on a closed set. Well, how did they find out that the wrestlers were stopping during the commercial breaks to talk with one another and just, stand around basically doing nothing? So we're going to already know the winners of all the big matches, of all the matches for that matter. So the point of watching is pretty much became moot. And plus it's not like these shows are any great. You're putting these guys at risk. They're sweating over, each and every one another. And you're making these guys travel. It does not make any sense at all. Why can't they just repeat old shows, put on Attitude Era shows? Every other organization, why is WWE so different? Especially when they try to compete with, with sports events, right? That's at least what they tried to do anyway. And if they're held to the same standards, like the wellness policy and all that, like, why are they exempt? Why is this even allowed to continue? Because it's on a closed set. I guess they don't care, but they're putting everyone else in danger, and that doesn't seem like that's really being taken into consideration. And, you've got wrestling fans praising Tony Khan because he decided to put a few wrestlers in the stands instead of making it a completely, empty audience. Does that really make a difference? Does anyone really care? Does that really affect anyone's decision on how they view the show? And it's optional. Yeah, attendance is optional for the wrestlers. But you don't think that those wrestlers are going to choose to be there? Because especially with AEW and their obsessive, basically marks in the ring, all these indie guys where wrestling and competing and putting on a 5-star Dave Meltzer approved match is their most important goal in life, the most important part of their day. Nothing else matters. And plus you've got a lot of people on this show also when it comes to WWE and AEW, they have plenty of money put away, but they're all worried about losing their spot, their main event push. Even though even in AEW they don't even stay consistent with anybody, everyone's so nervous that they're going to be viewed in a certain way. And this is not the time for that, but you can't blame them for thinking that way because, this is your job. You're going to be scared how your boss is going to view you if you make a certain decision. The decisions I'm talking about, where they give you an ultimatum, but you already know, like, what is the right option to choose. You already know the mindset that you should have. You're smart enough to sometimes realize that, and, and that's what the talent is basically thinking. They're scared to speak out against this because the person who speaks out is going to be the one that's on the you-know-what list. Could you believe that they're actually going to tape WrestleMania? Can you really put this into perspective? When you view all the years of all these shows being put on live, they're going to do it at the Performance Center, no less. You know, these big spectacles, even when WrestleMania is a complete abomination like last year, you can still look at it and say, you know, at least it's got pageantry. At least it's got the big pyro in the beginning. At least everyone has these, you know, grander entrances. You know, it feels special. It's the one time out of the year, you know, where wrestling gets to step outside of it feeling like an, you know, indie-inspired joke. You know, but now you're actually putting WrestleMania in the same place, the same venue that you train your rookies. Now, granted, they don't have a choice if they want to hold this event, but then we have to bring the question to the table, why are they holding the event? Why not just shut everything down and wait? Why must we have a show? And, you know, the argument is, this is entertainment and uncertain times. When you have even regular television shows that are shutting down production, they got to be the ones that are the odd man out. And, you know, a lot of people are giving this credit, but we already know, like during the trial with Vince McMahon, you know, back from the late 80s, I think it went into the early 90s. Vince McMahon has a real problem with the government, you know. He himself is very anti-authority. You know, and he likes to stick it, you know, to them and pretty much say, I'm not going to follow your rules if I don't have to. So, you know, he's found the loophole. He owns this building, you know, that has a ring in it. And, you know, it has all the necessities to put on a wrestling show. So that's what he's going to do. It doesn't matter, you know, whose health he's putting at risk. It didn't really matter to, you know, him when all the talent was scared in Saudi Arabia. You know, you had the top 20 leaving on a private jet. You know, there's all these examples, and don't even try to say that Tony Khan is not doing the same thing, because he should be shutting down that garbage as well. I don't, you know, people, oh, Tony Khan's doing so much better. No, they're both guilty. McMahon and Tony Khan are both equally guilty. No one is coming out of this looking like a saint. I'm going to tell you that right now. Anyway, let's move on to the show itself. So we've got Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar in the ring. And, you know, like, we just have Heyman cutting a promo. He talks about, you know, in these uncertain times, you know, when we need a bit more reassurance. Like, you know, it's like, you know, oh, with Brock Lesnar, this is certain. Like, just get out of here already. Like, just hearing those lines from Paul Heyman and him trying to compare the real world to right now, this is just examples of why they just need to shut it down already. Paul Heyman, his big mouth, I'm not, like, in the mood for this, really. Seriously, like, it's so, like, annoying, like, when you view reality and then you look at this joke of a product and you just kind of sit back and you have to listen to this fat doofus talk. You know, and the fact that he cuts the same promo over and over, it's like, this is what needs to be on TV. And plus, what is Brock doing here? I know he needs to fulfill a date, but this is kind of the time when Brock should really tell them to go F themselves. I'm not putting my health at risk just so I could come to a building, you know, an empty building, and stand there next to Paul Heyman. Just so I mean, he is going to honestly put in, you know, an actual match with no crowd on the network, where I'm going to tell you something, a lot less people are going to be watching this WrestleMania based on, you know, the time that they're doing it in, the current climate. Not only that, but they're also not going to watch it because it's in an empty arena and the pageantry is not, you know, the thing driving this. Because no one's really crazy about the card. No one's dying to see this in the first place. So you just basically bank on it. This is going to be a Mania that a lot of people are just going to, you know, tune out of or not tune into at all. Because this is just, it's not the right time. And McMahon is doing it anyway, just so he can hold the event. Because they shut down his little WrestleMania show, and he's gonna, oh, I'm gonna do it anyway, and, you know, like, just give me a break. Like, McMahon needs to grow up. Tony Khan needs to grow up already. And like really, like we really need to do this show. We need to really be flying all these wrestlers out to do these shows that are not even good, that we're getting nothing out of, just so we could build to a show that already has bad build. And now, well, we're gonna get into it later on. So they do the promo. I thought Drew McIntyre was advertised. I'm just happy that he didn't show up, for his sake. Good. Then they play the Seth Rollins, Brock, and Cena match. I don't know why we're replaying this match of all matches. Anyway, they waste time doing that. Okay, it was a good match for when that aired. It was from Royal Rumble 2015. Then AJ Styles comes out with the OC. He cuts a promo. He talks about, how the Undertaker is not the old school Undertaker that he wants. And, he says, like, this is the one that posts these selfies on Instagram. And, he's got a point. I said this, like, I could not believe. The Undertaker would have probably been the last person I would have expected to have a social media account. And he did actually hold out for a while. I didn't start seeing him on Instagram until about a year ago. He starts bringing out the Michelle McCool, lines, and it's just kind of getting tiresome already. There's not really a whole lot to this. I don't think that they're even going to show Michelle McCool, especially now. I'll be really surprised if she decides to show up, with everything going on, like really, and risk her health just so she can make some type of appearance that probably won't really amount to much. It's like no one's going to really remember all this. The only thing they're going to remember is that it's being held in the Performance Center, that it's being taped. And because we already know that that's going to overshadow basically anything they do on this. We already know it's going to be a pretty forgettable WrestleMania. That goes without saying. I think it's pretty much a sure thing. He challenges Taker to a boneyard match, whatever that is. Can we get an explanation at least to what that is? I've never heard of it before. Is that like their modern day buried alive match? I don't know. I would have thought it might have been easier for them to just do a casket match or something like that. Something we haven't seen in a while. Could be interesting, but a boneyard match, whatever that is. Like, honestly, how are they gonna have a match type, announce it, no one knows what it is, and not even bother to explain what it is? Does that really make any sense? Andrade and Garza defeated Ricochet and Cedric Alexander. So, all of a sudden, just out of the blue, these guys are wrestling one another. The Street Profits and Andrade and Garza are now wrestling at WrestleMania for the tag titles. So this is just how random this show is going to be. So if they're going to have basically all the talent on call, then, why are we having random matches like this? This is, what we've got. It's not like AOP versus the Street Profits or something like that, or, something with Buddy Murphy. Okay, I am for, as many people not being on this show as possible for their own sake, but, this is random as hell. This is the perfect example of why they shouldn't be having WrestleMania right now, because this is what they're going to give us. They're going to have these guys, work their asses off just for a random as hell match that has nothing, to do with anything. These guys come out for the distraction, and they're not even distracted. They end up getting the win anyway. Ricochet is basically this guy's career is done. They're obviously not going to do anything with him. It's funny that it was Cedric Alexander and Ricochet teaming together, the two guys that McMahon has gone on to saying that he has given up on them. So this is basically the given up ons, I guess you could call them, or something like that. Team gave up, basically. That's what we got. Basically the two failures here. I mean, that's no fault of their own. But, these are spot monkeys. They've got nothing else going on for them. They don't have a look. They're athletic. That's about it. They don't sell for anything. They've got no personality, no promo skills. So, what kind of like when people are all complaining about Vince McMahon giving up on them, it's like, what did you expect? How far did you think a guy like Ricochet was really going to get? And this is how it's always going to be. Because they're not interested in building stars. So you could imagine if you don't even know how to cut a promo, and that's all you know is just how to flip around. That's all that these guys do. And the Street Profits and the Andrade and Garza, they've never interacted before this. So it's like, why did they decide to book this? It's like, who cares? Who knows, and really, who cares? Really, like, does anyone care about this Mania at this point? And when you're booking matches like this, no one is even going to care even more. So after that, the Street Profits come to the ring. There's still no interaction here. And they beat two, I thought they were jobbers, but it turns out they were NXT guys. Shane Thorne and Brendan Vink. Okay, like, am I supposed to care? Am I supposed to know who these guys are? Anyway, so we have the match. Street Profits go over. No surprise there. I mean, this could not be like. First of all, like, this is a tag team that they just shotgunned into the tag titles. And now they're just going to have a match that's going to be as flat as my feet, basically, at Mania. I really do have flat feet, by the way. I mean, this is just going to be, like, a Mania that seems like it's purposely being put on to fail. Like, honestly, what do they think? When you've got a show that's being taped, it's going to be 2 nights instead of 1, when people have already complained that even 1 night of WrestleMania is too much with that running time. I'm going to guess that they're going to probably split it up, maybe 2.5 hours and 2.5 hours. I would think that's being conservative, by the way. That's minus the pre-show and whatever else they're going to put on before this. I mean, I would say this would be a great excuse to bring WrestleMania back down to 3 hours like it used to be. Or go back to just, 4 hours if you really need to make it that long. What a great time to bring WrestleMania down to a more realistic, bearable time. Because now, you really want to try to, not have this go on any longer than it needs to. But you're already putting everybody at risk, so does it really matter? I guess not. Because I keep saying this, but we really shouldn't be having this show in the first place. This is really wrong, and it's really just a dumb idea, and they're rushing through it. They want to get this Mania done as fast as possible, and it's already pretty much confirmed at this point that McMahon is only doing it because they shut down his show in Tampa, and he wants to stick it to the government. You're not going to have the show. I'm going to put it on in my own backyard. So congratulations, Vince. You're going to have a really crappy Mania that barely anyone is going to watch. Then we have an interview with Charlie is in the ring with Shayna Baszler. And, Shayna is just basically staring at Charlie. And then, she has some tough talk. And just, like, nothing here from Shayna is really getting through to me, or is really like sounding good or sounding tough. It just sounds really rehearsed and bland. It's more like it's boring me to death than really intimidating or anything like that. And Becky Lynch, Cringy Lynch, somehow manages to sneak up behind Shayna Baszler in an empty arena. How the hell do you manage to do that? You could have heard a pin drop in there, and somehow Old Cringy Lynch manages to sneak up behind Baszler. Either Baszler is deaf, or she's just dumb, or a combination of both. Or this show is just plain awful. I think it's all three. I'm pretty sure it's all three. I mean, how the hell do you manage that? How do you manage to sneak up behind someone when there's nothing going on? There's no external noise or anything going on. I mean, you know, and plus the biting puns are really painful. I don't bite. Oh, you know, it's like almost like they know that was lame to begin with. Isn't it embarrassing that they were really going for something edgy there and basically everyone is laughing at it as a result? They're really regretting it now. Then Aleister Black. He sits down in the middle of the ring. He's got a jobber. I think this time it was a jobber. I don't think it was an NXT guy. And like the guy is like, I love how you can just hear everything that these wrestlers are saying. Oh, what's he doing? Oh, he's not my opponent. He's your opponent. You know, then he blocks everything the jobber throws at him. Then he hits the black mass, pins him, and then he sits down again. And then it's announced that he's going to be facing Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania. What? This guy hasn't even, like, said a word to Bobby Lashley. Like, I don't get it. Like, how did we get from point A to point B? Because I guess, you know, they don't want to have him face any member of the OC because he's already beaten them. See, this is what you get when you don't build proper storylines on TV. You get a mess like this, basically. This is why, oh my god, like you really just, this is just going to basically be, it's going to be like a Raw. Because how different is that? It's going to be a random match that doesn't make any sense. There's no story behind it or anything. It's just like, hey, Bobby doesn't have an opponent. Rusev is not there to wrestle him. So we're just going to put him against Aleister Black. And obviously, they don't think highly of Lashley. So they're just going to have Black go over. And we're already going to know the results once they tape it to begin with. Then we have Kevin Owens in the ring. Seth Rollins cuts a promo. He cuts Owens off. And he goes on this rant. And like, Seth Rollins tells him, let me finish. And Owens lets him finish. And Rollins proceeds to tear him apart. And he mocks him for not even being at WrestleMania. Saying he wasn't good enough to be on the show. And he says, you know, you at Mania, it's been failure. And like, Owens has nothing to say to this. There's no clever comeback, and I gotta give it like to, you know, Rollins, like they let him like rant here, and he sounded good. It was a lot less annoying than when he was a baby face. I'll give him that. When he's a heel, he comes off a lot less annoying. You know, I guess because he doesn't have that excitable tone to him anymore, thus making him less annoying. So, I mean, it sounded good here, what he was saying. You know, there was some bass to his voice, so that was helping matters, of course. But Owens is just here, and after it's all said and done, and Seth Rollins is finished, there's no comeback from Owens. It's just basically, oh, yeah, you know, you want to say bad things about me? Go right ahead. I've got nothing to say to this. So Owens is looking a lot less like Stone Cold, and just like a big goof that just got bullied. You know, this was said to be the next Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is the guy that Stone Cold gives the blessing. Stone Cold gives the blessing to Owens to go ahead, do my Stone Cold Stunner. This is not the next Stone Cold. This is a joke. This is a guy shoving popcorn in his mouth. You know, they're having him get beat up. Seth Rollins is bullying him on the mic, saying he's not good enough to be on last year's Mania. No, you know what that is? That was bad booking. I'm not a big Owens fan, but at least the guy cuts a decent promo. And he's competent in the ring. I'm just not a big fan of him. I think if he got into shape, you know, maybe if they did something with his look, maybe that could work, you know. But they keep doing this. Creative is, you know, burying Owens, but also in the same breath, burying themselves. Because you had this guy beat Cena. You had this guy headbutt Vince McMahon. You had him feud with Shane McMahon. And then, you know, you didn't even have enough with Owens to really warrant the Mania match. So you left him off of Mania. And now we're like, oh, we'll blame it on Owens because he's not good enough. No, you guys are not good enough to write a show. That's why he wasn't on Mania. You know, I mean, he doesn't look like a guy who should be at Mania. I'll give you that. But, you know, if you're trying to blame people, blame yourselves. We shouldn't have to write a promo here where we're making fun of someone for not being on WrestleMania when the only reason why he wasn't there is because you guys wrote it that way. You booked it that way. You made it so Owens, you know, didn't have enough credibility to be on the show. And he doesn't have enough credibility to be on the show, for that matter, quite frankly. But since it's going to be a random episode of Raw, basically, a taped WrestleMania over 2 nights that no one's going to give a damn about, I guess it's very fitting that's when Kevin Owens makes his Mania return. Then they play a Charlotte and Asuka Mania from, WrestleMania 34 in 2018. Then Charlotte cuts a little brief promo. This is going to be probably the flattest women's match. You know, like, Charlotte won the Royal Rumble. She won the Rumble, guys. And her match is receiving even less attention. You know, like, why is Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler's match getting more attention than the actual Royal Rumble winner? You're the ones who decided that she go after the NXT title. No one asked for that, basically, except for a few goofballs who wanted a dream match. You know, if that's a dream match, you need to go back to sleep and think of a new dream. Because that's not a dream match to me. That right there, like I said, that's a joke. Having her go backwards after winning both main roster titles so she could win the developmental title, because that's what it is. I don't want to hear any arguments out of anybody. That's what it is. The NXT title is not on the same level as those titles. You know, and you're gonna have your Royal Rumble winner for the first time in history decide. Like, this would be like, imagine Batista back in 2005 winning the Royal Rumble and saying, you know what, Triple H, you know what, JBL, I want to go after the OVW title. Oh wow, how much excitement do you think that would bring about? So then we get the last segment of the night. And it's Randy Orton cutting a promo. And it's a good promo. The only thing is, he just like Edge, why did he need to be there to cut this promo? Why did they fly this guy out so he could be in contact with numerous other wrestlers? Because, you know, he didn't just go right to the ring. You know, they have him there with the cameraman and everything. Like, just have the guy, if you're going to do the show and you're going to insist on doing the show, just do Skype. Have him tape it. You're gonna actually have the guy stand there in on the ramp and cut the promo. Like, did he really need to be there to do that so he could stand in an empty arena and cut? Does anyone see how foolish this is? Like, this whole thing that we're gonna go here and compete in an empty arena and cut promos and all this stuff and stuff that's like greatly aided by a crowd reaction. And we're not going to do that. I mean, jeez. Like, oh my God. Just, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this to the talent? You know, that's all I got to say, guys. Like, I really don't feel like talking about this anymore. Because it's basically a repeat of what I said for SmackDown and for Raw and the SmackDown before that. They're doing wrestling in an empty arena. They don't even have much of a show to begin with. Is this really worth it? They're going to force feed a WrestleMania that doesn't even really have that much build to begin with. Now they're going to throw on random matches. Come on. Is this really necessary? Just so Vince McMahon can stick it to the Floridian government? I mean, come on already. This is pathetic if I've ever seen it before. Anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the review. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I want to thank all my patrons for your continued support. And, guys, once again, I have to say it. Please stay safe out there. Do whatever you can. Don't be like Vince McMahon. Don't be like the WWE or AEW. Please. And, guys, I'll see you next time.